She slapped me.
Right across the face. In MY home. In MY living room. In front of MY husband. And then she looked me dead in the eyes, pointed at the door, and said, "Get out. You don't belong here anymore." I was 8 months pregnant, and my husband said nothing.
Part 1. Who I am.
My name is Soo-Yeon, and 3 years ago, I was the proudest woman in Seoul. Not because of money, not because of power, but because Jae-Won chose me. Kang Jae-Won, the man they called the Black Dragon, head of one of the most feared crime families in all of South Korea. A man that senators feared, that generals owed favors to, that the entire underworld bowed before.
And he chose me.
A quiet girl from Busan with ink-stained fingers and a love for poetry. He said I was the only thing in his world that was pure. We married in secret.
A small ceremony.
Just his most trusted men and my mother, who cried the entire time. "He will protect you," she whispered as she fixed my veil. "Or, he will destroy you." I should have listened more carefully to the second part. Part 2, the other woman. Her name was Mina. Beautiful, dangerous, patient. The way a snake is patient before it strikes. She had grown up in Jae-Won's world. Her father had worked for his family for decades. She and Jae-Won had history he never fully explained to me, no matter how many times I asked. "She's no one," he'd say, every single time. But she was always there. At the company dinners. At the private events. Standing just close enough to remind me that she knew things about my husband that I never would. I tried to be understanding. I was the wife. I had the ring. I had his name. Then I found out I was pregnant and everything changed. Jae-Won was different when I told him. Softer than I had ever seen him. He held my face in his hands, these big, scarred hands that had done terrible things, and he had tears in his eyes. "A child," he whispered. "Our child." For 1 perfect month, I felt like I had won. And then Mina came back. Part 3, the slap. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I had just come home from my prenatal appointment, alone, because Jae-Won had canceled last minute. "Business," his assistant had said. "He's very sorry." I walked through the front door of our penthouse, and she was sitting on MY couch, drinking MY tea, looking at me like I was the guest. I stopped walking. My heart started pounding so hard, I could feel it in my throat. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "Come." I was trying so hard to be calm. She smiled. That slow, perfect smile. Jae-Won invited me. We had things to discuss. "Then discuss them somewhere else," I said. "This is my home." She stood up, slowly, like she had all the time in the world, and then she walked toward me. I didn't back away. I should have, but I didn't. She stopped right in front of me, close enough that I could smell her perfume, and she looked down at my stomach, at my bump, at the child that Jae-Won had cried over, and she said, "You really think carrying his baby makes you safe? You really think it makes you his? I am his wife. You are temporary." That's when I felt it, the crack of her palm across my cheek. So fast I didn't even see it coming. The room tilted. My ears rang. I reached out and grabbed the wall to keep from falling. She had slapped me. She had slapped the wife of Kang Jae-Won, the most feared man in Korea, while I was 8 months pregnant with his child. Then she leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Get out. You don't belong here anymore." Part 4, his silence. Jae-Won walked in 30 seconds later. He saw me against the wall, holding my cheek. He saw Mina standing there, perfectly composed, not a hair out of place. And he froze. "What happened?" he asked. "She fell," Mina said immediately. "She hit me," I said, my voice shaking. "She slapped me, Jae-Won. She slapped me and told me to leave my own home." He looked at her, then at me, then at the floor. And he was quiet. Kang Jae-Won, the Black Dragon. The man who had made grown men weep with a single sentence. The man who had once shut down an entire city block because someone had been rude to me at a restaurant. He said nothing. That silence broke something inside me that I don't think ever fully healed. "Say something," I whispered. He finally looked up. And I saw it just for a second, something like shame in his eyes. Then he looked at Mina and said, "Leave." Just one word. Barely a whisper. She blinked.
Surprised.
But she picked up her bag and she walked out. I thought for one desperate, foolish second that he was choosing me. Then he turned to me and said, "You need to rest. Go to the bedroom." Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "She will never come near you again." Just go to the bedroom. I looked at this man I had married. This man I had loved. This man who was supposed to be the most terrifying person in all of Korea. And I picked up my purse and my hospital bag that I'd packed for the birth. And I walked out the door. Part 5. What happened next? I went to my mother's house in Busan. I didn't call. I didn't text. I turned off my phone, sat on my mother's floor, and cried until I had nothing left. She held me all night without asking a single question. In the morning, she made me soup and said, "What are you going to do?" I put my hand on my stomach. "I'm going to have this baby," I said. "And then I'm going to disappear." Jae-Won's men found me within 48 hours.
Of course they did.
He had eyes everywhere. But instead of dragging me back, he came himself. He stood at my mother's door. No bodyguards. No car convoy. Just him, in a plain jacket, looking like he hadn't slept. My mother opened the door, looked at him, and said, "You have 10 minutes, and you will stand in the hallway. You do not deserve to sit in my home."
He stood in the hallway.
He told me that Mina was gone, that he had ended everything, that he had sent her family away from Seoul permanently. He told me that the night I left, he had sat alone in that penthouse for the first time in his life and understood what it felt like to be afraid, not of an enemy, not of death, but of losing something irreplaceable. He got down on his knees, there in my mother's narrow hallway. Kang Jae-Won, on his knees. "I failed you," he said. "I failed you in the worst way a man can fail a woman." I stood there, and I said nothing, and I will regret that for the rest of my life. "You can undo it," I told him. "I know," he said, "but I'm asking you to let me spend the rest of my life trying." Part 6. My decision. I want to be very honest with you. I did not forgive him that day. I did not go back that week or the week after. I had my daughter. We named her Haun, which means graceful, in a small hospital in Busan, with only my mother by my side. Jae-Won was in the waiting room. I had allowed that much. When the nurse brought him in to see her for the first time, this man, this terrifying, powerful, dangerous man, sat down in a plastic hospital chair, held this tiny baby in his arms, and completely fell apart. He didn't try to hide it. He didn't wipe his face. He just sat there, sobbing, holding his daughter. And I understood, watching him, that love is not always enough on its own. Love without action is just a feeling. Love without protection is just words. He had loved me. I never doubted that. But he had failed to act when it mattered most. I made him prove it. Not with words, not with gestures, but with years. With consistency. With showing up again and again and again, even when I was cold, even when I was angry, even when I made it hard.
He did.
It took 2 years. But he did. Studio microphone outro. We live in Busan now. He left Seoul. He left the life. Not all at once. Those things take time, and they are complicated. But step by step, he built something different. Haun is 3 years old. She calls him Appa, and she already has him completely wrapped around every tiny finger. And sometimes, when she's asleep and the house is quiet, Jae-Won will look at me across the room, and there's still that shadow in his eyes. That memory of the hallway, of the silence. I think he'll carry it forever. Maybe that's okay, because I carry it too. And the weight of it reminds us both, every single day, what almost got lost. If you stayed until the end, thank you. Drop in the comments if you think he deserved a second chance. And drop a if you think she should have walked away forever. This is Air Nero Romance. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next story is even more intense. I'll see you there.